Welcome to a new video on our channel. Today, how to program a wave with an Abyzz pump. In general, all the programming on all the Abyzz pumps, depending on whether you have a flow pump or a return pump, is all the same. So technically, all the software is designed in the same way. So once you've found your way through one, you'll be able to program any type of Abyzz pump. The only difference in the AFC programming is that they can actually run backwards, just in case you want to create some special effects. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend that in your hobby tank, because if you don't have a proper input or inlet protection, then you'll definitely have little sushi pieces from your moray eels or whatever you get sucked into the intake of the pump. Well, anyway, so we're going to start with our little setup here. We have a test tank 2 meters long, roughly 6 feet, just to give you an idea on how to program waves. So we just placed a standard return pump in here, A200 IPU. So the programming is pretty much straightforward. So right now the pump is set to 40% in permanent mode, which you will see on the lower line here. As soon as I start the pump, you'll just see the water will be moving, running at 40% in permanent mode in that small tank. So now we want to create a wave. And we're going to do the first wave when we have the pump stopped. Even though you can actually program the pump while the wave is going on, we just want to go through it slowly so you'll get a hang of it. So press menu, and now you'll see the mode the pump is running in. So if you press start stop button, now you can choose the actual mode of the pump, which is right now permanent, and then you go up and then you can program wave. There's random mode, and then there's random 2 modes. Just to give you an idea, random mode will result in you setting 2 values, the lower end and the higher end, and the pump will then choose in the time that you've adjusted a random value in between those 2 borders that you are setting. So whenever the timer goes off, if you say 30 seconds for example, the pump will choose any value in between those 2 limits. Random mode 2 does exactly the same, but you're not allowed to set a time. The time is also randomized. So that may be 1 second, maybe half an hour. You just don't know, which creates absolute chaotic flow in your tank. So that is a really good use if you have multiple pumps placed in your tank and you really want to have a chaotic flow that is not repeating itself all the time. Then that's the way to go. But now for today, we want to do some waves. So basically you choose wave, press start stop, and then you set the minimum. Normally people would say, oh, we'll just start at 0, which works. But there's 2 disadvantages in starting from 0. One, if the pump is standing still, just like now, fish might get into it. Moray eels, they like to go in intakes, and also the pump's output maybe if there's no water coming out. So having the pump run at a very low value will give you the security that the fish won't get in. Usually fish and other animals stay away from a running motor or running impeller. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that there's a startup procedure. When you're starting up your Abyzz pump, what it does from 0, it turns the rotor in a very detailed way, so the pump actually knows the rotor position inside the motor. That takes some milliseconds, and if you want to create a fast motion, then these few milliseconds will block you in creating a fast change. Then your maximum peak right here set to 30%. That's basically the amplitude of your wave signal that is coming out of the pump. And now just for playing around with it, we are setting the timer to 0.80 seconds, so you can actually adjust the IPU drivers in hundredths of a second, because if you want to create standing waves, you have to be very precise in playing around to match that inner tank's frequency. So we start from 0.8% and then we go on the maximum time 0.7, which gives us around 1.50 seconds in wavelength. Let's see what it does. So the pump is ramping up, and now you'll see it running, and we already see a wave forming. So you might guess it that I've already played around with it a little bit more, so just to give you an idea to match this timing of this tank. The timing though varies with the water level, with the size of the tank, with the shape of the tank, with the decoration, with corals inside. So if you want to create waves like this, it is a little bit of trial and error system. So play around with it and find your frequencies. What you need to know is that the pump has to accelerate basically in the point when the water wants to go back. Same as a swing. If you have a child sitting on a swing and you want to push the child, you push it in the upper dead spot, basically in the point when the swing is not moving, then you accelerate, and thus amplifying the motion that is already there, or that Newton is already organizing for us, thankfully. So you do the same here. Wave is coming up and then the motor starts and pushing the wave back. So there's one wave that fits into this tank. The more precise you match this, you might be able to play around with it to reach some more. Downside of creating waves like this in a tank is that you're actually moving a lot of mass against your tank's walls. So imagine you cut out this amount of water, which might be 10 liters, 2 gallons, 2.5 gallons, which is 10 kilograms, 20 pounds, just hitting the wall with that speed of the wave. So that might not be healthy. Right now in this setup, when you have just one wavelength in your tank, the wave is pushing to both sides at the same time, so your stand will not be affected. Still, your tank itself will get the force of that wave. So if we switch around and let's say we move to twice the frequency, so let's aim for something like 1.45 maybe, and what did I have last time? 1.17. You'll see a different wave forming. So now we've changed the wave while it's running. So the water is still moving in its old waveform, and then the pump has to push against that. So it'll take some time until the pump reaches the new value and the water actually picks up the new momentum. I had another speed. Damn it. So, there we go. Let's turn this up a little. So 1.45, 1.17. Yeah, there we go. So if the pump is sucking in air, it'll automatically stop. That's why it's just stopped the wave for a second. But now you'll see the wave forming. And with this twice the wavelength, we need a little bit more power to actually push more water around in the tank. But now you'll see the wave forming, and now we only have half a wave in there. So the water's basically swaying back and forth. And now we're actually pushing mass of the water to one side of the aquarium and then to the other side. So that is very, very unhealthy for your stand, because it will start moving in its angles. You know, you'll have this force going back and forth, and so eventually your tank will just break, or the stand of the tank could break if it's not properly mounted. Yeah, so now you can play around with those values. It just takes a while to match exactly your tank's inner frequency, but you basically just listen to the pump. So it has to accelerate when the wave is coming in. It's too early, so we need to raise this time here a little bit. Still too early. Adding some time. Still too early. And that's really a question of milliseconds here. Almost.
Ah, here it comes.
There we go. Now we hear the pump accelerating in the moment when the water is hitting this area of the tank where the pump is sitting. So that's basically what you want to achieve. So with the same settings and with the same power that we've programmed, we're now achieving a much higher wave. And that's just a question of a couple of milliseconds. So don't worry if you don't get that done in the first try. You just need to get a feeling for your tank and have a closer look at the water surface. If the water is starting to sway and then coming back, the pump has to start. That's basically all you have to figure out. And then you'll be able to, with adding 1 or 2 milliseconds at a time, you'll see the change. And the bigger the tank, of course, the longer it takes until all the water has actually picked up the momentum. But you see, I mean, we're talking about 30, 40 pounds that are being pushed back and forth in the tank. So this is a significant force that if the tank is not properly fixed, that stand will start to break at some point, or at least sway back and forth. So that's all you need to know about the wave programming. If you have any more detailed questions, please put them in the comments or send us an email. So please let me know whether you like that. If you have any other questions, let us know, and then we'll answer those questions for you. Otherwise, I hope you'll be there next Saturday, and I'll see you on our channel. Let us a like there and subscribe to the channel, and then we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.